So if you're planning on doing any delves or delve content in the first season of Midnight, this is definitely a week you're going to want to be grinding quite a bit of these delves, because this week we have Sign of the Explorer, which gives us a 25% increase to your Delver's Journey progress, 25% increase to Valeera's experience gains, and 25% increase to Undercoin gains. So there is a lot to farm for this week specifically, and on top of that, there is also a weekly quest to complete 5 delves, and that will give you a champion track piece of gear. So there's a lot of farming to be done, and specifically in this video I wanted to go over the best ways to level up Valeera. And there's actually a very specific reason for that, because for whatever reason the Delver's Journey is capped to rank 4 this week. So if you're at rank 4 like I am, you just can't get any more Delver's Journey experience, which really sucks, because going further into the Delver's Journey renown track gives a lot of a very strong buffs, and it doesn't really make sense that the mythic raids are out but you can't keep progressing your Delver's Journey. But in future weeks, when we can start to progress the Delver's Journey even more, having Valeera be a higher level is incredibly good for just running delves much more quickly and making them much easier. Because if you have a Valeera at like level 30 compared to like level 50, that is a massive difference in Valeera's power. So that's mainly what I want to go over in this video: how you can level up Valeera and the best ways to currently do it. I do have one disclaimer. So my Valeera is currently level 49. That is what all the numbers we're going over in this video is going to be based upon. And I'm not sure if they're going to have something similar like they did in the War Within, where once you got branded to a certain level, you basically stop gaining experience except from doing like bountiful delves. I don't know if that's going to be the case in Midnight, and if that's the case, what level it would be at. My presumption is if that kicks in, it'll probably be like level 60 or above. So even if you've been doing quite a lot of delves, you more than likely can keep doing the things in this video to keep getting a lot of experience. Now, the first method is very simple, just to get it out of the way. Do your bountiful delves. If you have a lot of alt, just doing bountiful delves on every alt you possibly can, especially if you could do them on higher tiers, is probably going to be the best thing to do, but that is obviously limited. And even if you have a good amount of alts, you may not have a bunch of alts that can do the higher tier delves to get the most out of the experience. So that's the first thing. Do bountiful delves at the highest tiers you possibly can. Just to give you some numbers on doing a tier 11 bountiful delve at Delver's Journey rank 4, which is important because it also gives you some additional bonus experience at the end. I was able to get around 150,000 experience, not counting killing any of the enemies throughout the delve. So this is probably closer to maybe like 160k or something like that. If you count looting some curios and stuff throughout the run, you're probably getting up to maybe like 180,000 for a tier 11 bountiful delve full completion, with all of the nemesis groups defeated, with using a coffer key, and with also getting the banner, which if you don't know, at level 3 of the Delver's Renown, anytime you run a bountiful delve, there will be a banner within it that you can click on that may or may not spawn an elite enemy, but then at the end of the delve there will be an additional chest. That additional chest actually gave a lot of experience, and more specifically the completion and then chest looting. I got 65,000 experience from the completion of the delve, a little over 33,000 for the max nemesis chest, and then 52,000 for that banner. So bountiful delves, very good for experience. Now, if you're looking to still spam complete delves for one reason or another, whether you're trying to do that to get veteran track warbound gear for alts, or even maybe for your main, or whether you're trying to also farm out undercoins, which this week's buff also gives more undercoins, so that could be a worthwhile thing, you will be getting 25,000 experience per tier 11 completion for Valeera. Now, this should be going down as you get lower and lower in the delve tiers for specifically that completion experience for her, and I'm not sure how that scales with her level specifically. Like, I'm not sure if you have Valeera at like level 20, will completing a tier 11 delve just give you a lot more experience for her? Not 100% certain on that, but this isn't going to be near as strong as the other method I'm going over in this video. So if you want to just spam complete delves, you're mainly doing it for something else, but also getting some experience on top of that. Now, the main thing we're going to be doing to get pretty much a most amount of experience outside of doing Bountiful Delves is looting curios. Now, I don't know why there's a sentiment going around that curios no longer give experience, because they still work in a pretty similar way to how they worked in the War Within, in that the experience amounts you get, depending on the delve level you are in, is directly tied to Valeera's current level. And more specifically, as you keep leveling up Valeera, the lower delve tier you're on, the less experience she gets. Once she gets to certain levels, that delve tier will just no longer give her experience from looting the curios. But what's also quite interesting is that if you're in a delve tier high enough to where you're looting curios and you still get Valeera experience, the amount of experience she gets doesn't actually change much once you're at that point. This will make a bit more sense as I go over the actual amounts from these curios. But before we get into those specific numbers, the best place to do this is to run the Grudge Pit. This is going to be in Herondir, and this is just super easy because essentially all you're doing is trying to loot all the curios, which you can't do in combat. So you can essentially just clear out the first group or first wave of enemies in the Grudge Pit, and then go around all of the edges and loot all the curios, and you'll get like 7, maybe a little over 7 curios every single run, and they're all in such a small area because the Grudge Pit is such a small map. So as you see in the footage, I'm just clearing out the first wave, and then I'm going around the edges of the map, which is pretty much where all the curios are, looting them all, leaving the delve, going back in. That's pretty much what you're going to be doing to get the most curios per hour, or the most you can get in the shortest amount of time. But that brings us to how much experience you'll actually be getting and how this works. So keep in mind, these numbers are for Valeera at level 49. I could only get her experience from looting these curios at tier 4 or above. If I went below tier 4, she just would get 0 experience from these curios. Once you hit tier 4, you would start getting experience. And again, this will depend on her level. If you have a much lower level Valeera, you can do much lower level delve runs and still be getting good experience from those curios. Now, the thing I was talking about earlier, where the higher delve tier you go, the more experience you'll get from curios, isn't actually that much. So I did a little bit of numbers. So starting at tier 6 delves, she would get 3,850 experience from these curios. Now that's only from green or uncommon rarity experience from these curios. If you don't know, picking up any of the curios can proc at higher rarities to, I think, double the experience every time. So you can get a rare experience boost, which will, I think, double the experience. And then you can also get an epic one, which will double the experience from the rare. And obviously getting like an epic one would be somewhat close to like a tier 11 completion. So just constantly looting all these curios and doing this farm can just give you procs of massive experience increases for Valeera. So for the specific experience amounts, I started at a tier 6 delve, and looting an uncommon curio gave 3,850 experience. A tier 7 delve looting that same green curio gave 3,987. At a tier 8 delve, it gave 4,125. At a tier 9, it gave 4,165. And then at a tier 11 delve, it gave 4,262 experience. Now, based upon the testing I was doing, on average, the difference of experience between different delve tiers for these curios is like 3.5%. And I think specifically once you get to the lowest levels where Valeera can still get experience from these, it seems to have a little bit of higher drops in the experience you get. So it seems like you want to find the lowest delve tier you can get experience for her from these curios in, and then do a few above that. Especially how we're doing this farm, you want to clear out that first wave of the Grudge Pit. If you can do that on a much lower tier, that's going to be much better because the enemies get much tankier the higher delves you go in. And the difference could legitimately be like multiple minutes per run just because the enemies could have so much health. So you probably want to do a mid delve tier that is still giving Valeera experience. So specifically for me right now with Valeera at level 49, I would probably want to be running like tier 6 delves. Again, she could still get experience at, I think, tier 4 delves. So I'd probably want to be running like tier 6 to have a good mix of being able to kill the enemies quickly, to get to the curios more quickly, and still getting good experience from them. And just to put that into perspective, if I was running a tier 6 delve right now with Valeera at level 49, and I went in and cleared out the first wave of the Grudge Pit, and then went and looted all the curios, and let's say there's 7 curios in that run, there can be more, I would be getting more experience from just doing that than doing a tier 11 delve completion at the same level of Valeera. And the time difference is pretty massive, and this is much less gear intensive. I have a decently geared prop paladin, probably not that decently geared at this point now because I haven't really started my Mythic Plus runs or anything like that, but it's significantly less gear intensive because you can run much lower tier of delves and you're still getting more experience for much less time. But again, as I mentioned, I don't know if there's going to be just a pure drop off like there was in the War Within, where you got brand to a certain level and then nothing besides the completion of bountiful delves would give experience anymore. Even if that is in Midnight right now, you'll have to get Valeera to quite a high level for that to actually kick in. So I definitely recommend leveling Valeera up this week, doing these farms I went over to get her a very, very high level to be able to farm the delve journey much more quickly once it's actually unlocked. Because farming up your delve journey ranks will just significantly increase the gear you're able to get from delves. At one point in the delve journey track, you can just start to get hero drops from the chests at the end of delves instead of just being able to get champion drops. Because normally, and how delves have always worked, is once you go complete them, you can get champion track in them from, say, a bountiful delve, but you can't get hero track except from your Great Vault. Getting a certain rank in the delve journey, you can now just get hero track instead of that champion gear just from the bountiful delves themselves. At one of the delve journey ranks, you can start to get a vendor at the end of higher tier delves that you can buy trinkets from. Another one of the ranks allows you to get a different currency to get even higher eye level trinkets from that same vendor. So there is a lot of additional gearing you can do by farming up your delver's journey experience. And since you can't do that past rank 4 this week, the best other thing to do is to level up Valeera with the experience boost. But that's all I want to go over. So thanks for watching.